Hey, so the U.S. just won their first World Cup game 2-1, and I am absolutely buzzing right now. So I guess I'm going to start off talking about the U.S. and uh, kind of the role of the teacher in the classroom in terms of fostering patriotism. I guess that's probably the best way to put it. In that, I worked at two schools this year. In the main one, where I mostly taught at this elementary school for the majority of the year, and I had 2 months of orchestra. And at both schools that they were pretty big on saying your Pledge of Allegiance if they happen to be in your class for that part of the day. And I'll split it up into two parts. So for orchestra, they had a school structure that really fostered that, in that they had the PA system with the Pledge of Allegiance. It's probably pretty standard. I'm not even sure where that comes from legislatively, whether that's a requirement in public schools, but they're big on their Pledge of Allegiance, on having every single student, every single class standing up, hand over the heart, reading the thing. And I'm not really sure whether that was, where that enforcement came from, whether that was a school culture thing or whether that was a rule that they were enforcing. Because in our class, he just kind of demanded it. Um, and I'm a pretty solid patriot, and I have no real problem with that off the bat. Um, and so I didn't make too much of it, but you know that was more in terms of in the orchestra class, that was more about kind of the enforcement of rules that I was concerned about. Who is demanding that happens, and do we have a responsibility? It's kind of my overarching question: is do we have a responsibility to foster patriotism in ways that we talk about the country? I'm assuming that I'm not going to be getting into too many intense political debates with students, because that would not it would only detract from at least an elementary music class. I can't really assume that would happen all that much. I'm assuming that I have to be careful in things that I say about political candidates and things like that. That's also knowing the region that you're in. This is a more conservative region than the one that I grew up in, the one in which I grew up. Yeah. So I basically didn't. I was, yeah, actually even careful with my cooperating teacher about that, about kind of testing what was okay for me to say politically, and I'm not too political. But um, as for the elementary school, a lot of the state issued curriculum, and the curriculums that were purchased and handed down for the program, um, a lot of that had whole sections of the book. You'd have your spotlight on singing, spotlight on performing, spotlight on reading, spotlight on music theory, like all these sections, and pretty overarching main uh, subjects, that skills and cornerstones of learning in a music class. But there are whole sections in these books about patriotic songs, themes. That's where they bring a lot of the history, cross curricular stuff um, into the class. And so it seems that there is pressure from those who formulate these curriculums to foster patriotism. And that's an American thing in general. I feel like to foster patriotism in kind of public systems. It's well advertised. It's the media does a great job with that, etc. But is that a responsibility that if someone was talking poorly about the United States for no particular reason, would I have an opportunity or even a requirement to step in and say something there, or is it just not my job? Let them say what they want. Um, because we've talked about other ways that your upbringing, your beliefs will affect your teaching, and this is just another one of those types of beliefs for me. Uh, and I feel like for all teachers, just another one of those things that we bring to the table from our own background and our own being, our own individuals as teachers. We're not just robots. Um, so I don't know. I didn't. I don't have a lot to draw on here, because I didn't have any issues or run into any of these circumstances that I'm talking about which I'm talking, in my student teaching. So I don't really even know where I'm going with this, other than to just bring the question up of, do we have a responsibility or what is at the level of responsibility or level of involvement the teacher should have in terms of having conversations about patriotism. I mean, we celebrate the holidays, we get school off, they're national holidays. I mean, I feel like we do to a certain extent. I mean, me personally, I'm maybe more patriotic, maybe more politically inclined than some other teachers might be, and so that's what they bring to the table, and there's nothing on them for not necessarily going there. But is there something on me for going there if that's something that I am bringing to the table? I mean, we had this choir festival where the top 20 or 20 kids that we chose from our choir and 20 kids from a bunch of other schools got together went to the Pike Peak Center. I actually ended up conducting my choir in front of 1,000 people. It was terrifying. And there were 3 songs that they chose for all of the choirs to practice independently, and then they'd come together and sing them. So some classes learned different parts than others, and it would sound beautiful when we put them all together. And 2 of them just happened to be patriotic songs, and for no particular reason. That was the theme, because it seems to be a common theme. And so it seems to be that there's pressure coming from a lot of different directions to foster positive patriotic attitudes in our students. And it comes down to either having conversations, or in this case, for music, it's repertoire selection. It's you're choosing material. Shut up, phone. You are choosing material that always has an impact on students. What material you choose, whatever the subject is, and this is just music, the repertoire, what you are choosing that they practice, perform, internalize, learn, enjoy, love music that just happens to be patriotically themed a lot of the time. And again, I have no problem with it. I'm just wondering, what is the boundary there in terms of what our response, because we have all these responsibilities to foster good moral attitudes, I guess, again, is the word I'm going to go for. And so how is this any different, really? But it just gets sticky when you start dealing with conflicting ideologies that have been blown up so much by everybody that I have no problem doing, I can do that all day, if I'm teaching that to kids. There's some good stuff going on there in terms of learning an instrument, some syncopated rhythms, and I don't know, other great stuff. That's a completely decent selection to teach someone on a stringed instrument. But choosing that selection could have more of an impact than I'm maybe even realizing bringing this up. I guess that's all I'm going to talk about.